Because when you saw the UFC bring in WADA, what you saw is everybody's physiques got really small because everyone was terrified of testing positive. Yo, I'm the guy that talks about the contaminated supplements, the performance-enhancing drugs, and the steroids in the CrossFit space. I'm the guy that became so interested in this stuff that I started using them myself through California Hormones because they're incredibly interesting to me, and I wanted to see what it would do, and that's an entire another story. Over the course of the season, you'll hear about drug tests that individuals are failing, that team athletes are failing, and there is an ongoing story involving a team that has failed a drug test, and that team is Blue City CrossFit. About 11 hours ago, an athlete of the team from Blue City named Taylor Stride put up a post that reads, "Yes, I received a positive test for Ostarine after the Syndicate Crown semifinal this season, but that's not this picture. The first picture is actually a positive test from an independent lab of a supplement I had tested. For those close to me, they know I would have never knowingly taken a banned supplement. For those that are not, here is a look into my dealings with CrossFit. I traditionally don't take any supplements such as pre-workout, protein shakes, creatine, etc. because in my 10 plus years in CrossFit, I am hyper aware of the risks of the contamination in non-regulated products. Due to a quick turnaround on the last events of the Syndicate Crown, my teammate and I added a simple NSF certified electrolyte packet to our water, keyword NSF certified."
Is that what you think? You think you're just gonna crush the rock? It doesn't matter what you think!
I did my due diligence on these electrolytes to ensure they were safe for use on their company website, and the NSF website approval is listed on both. I did the same due diligence during last season when I took the exact same supplements during the WCC, and since our team qualified for the games, we were drug tested, my results were negative. I've been working on my appeal with CrossFit HQ for nearly 4 months since my original notification on 7/6. My teammate and I tested one thing we both ingested, and it was positive for Ostarine. We worked with a lab director to determine what levels of Ostarine were and how this supplement could have been contaminated. They stated the levels of Ostarine were consistent with intentional addition at the manufacturer level, adding that they definitely have seen this before. Throughout this season, we have both been entirely transparent with HQ, giving them full access to speak to both the electrolyte manufacturer and the testing laboratory. They chose to postpone the announcement during my positive drug test notification to the supplement being NSF certified. According to the CrossFit rulebook, the length of the suspension will be determined by CrossFit LLC on a case-by-case basis. Traditionally, finding the source of contamination has resulted in a reduced sanction, so I am surprised that this was not my case. I am obviously very disappointed and heartbroken that I'm sanctioned with what I feel is an unjust full 4 years. As an athlete, it is a hopeless feeling following policies and still being shut out. This case seems to be final, but there are inconsistencies and contradictions that need to be discussed, including how an athlete has no leg to stand on in the sport when it comes down to it. There's so much more to say, but for now, I wanted you all to hear about this from me, more to come. I think the key thing there is more to come. While editing this video, I pulled up the appeals process in the CrossFit Games rulebook, and it says that the following factors will be considered in a drug test appeal. And this is going to kind of all wrap up in the back end of this where I bring up WADA. But the number one thing it says is that the things that will be considered, the athlete believes and can prove there was a problem with the collection of the testing of the subject samples that affected the sample's integrity. We'll remember that Lisa Burns had a huge issue with the collection of her sample and was actually given the 4-year ban, wasn't taken into any sort of consideration, which is odd because it says that that is the number one, at least bullet point factor that should be brought up. And you remember that I was on that athlete's side as well. The third bullet point, absolutely nothing because it has to do with it being a medication or that they asked about the specific supplement. The number 2 appeals process bullet point is the one that we're talking about here, which is the athlete used due diligence prior to ingesting a supplement and that it's part of the NSF Safe for Sport. The athlete must provide proof that they did not know that they could reasonably have ingested the specific banned substance. Now, what I see here is I see that CrossFit has stuff written in words right there for the athletes to see, and they're burning athletes like Lisa Burns and now the Blue City CrossFit team. If you follow the channel, you'll know that there's an athlete named Jalen Franklin that took GW501516, and when that athlete took that, they immediately went live on the Clydesdale podcast where that guy completely ran himself into a fucking grave. He's like, "Hey man, why'd you take GW501516? I didn't. Supplement was contaminated, man." "Oh, you took a contaminated supplement. How do you know?" "Because I didn't take it. Something had to have been contaminated." "Well, do you know what the supplement was?" "No. But it had to have been something because it wasn't me." "Well, what do you think it was?" "Well, there was a bag of pills I was taking that bag of pills was probably contaminated. And you'll remember that. Like, dude, that bag of pills was probably GW501516. You got them from a buddy? Yeah, my buddy wanted to help me out. He said to take this bag of pills and it was going to help me. It was contaminated, man.
Okay, you got the job, man.
That case is how I typically want to bury these people who say that they're taking contaminated supplements. The team from Blue City CrossFit seems to be on the other end of the spectrum. We haven't heard shit from them in 4 months? It's almost the end of October. Yeah, it's been like 4 months. And that's because they've been going through the processes to get their supplements checked out. And you can see on this post here, although it's a small post, it just does say that result positive for ostarine. Also this year, when speaking to Adrian Bosman about the positive tests, he says that there's no more or less positive tests. I think this came out of Bosman's mouth. It might have been Justin Berg, but I know that I heard it somewhere over the course of the year. There was a statement about using NSF certified supplements. So the fact that this was an NSF certified supplement, they have tested it and they have found that there was ostarine in it. It's like, what is an athlete supposed to do at that point? I drink a C4. There's not supposed to be anything in there, but it's not an NSF certified supplement. CrossFit didn't say, hey, Andrew, you can go drink C4s as much as you want. If I drink a C4 and there happens to be fucking anadrol in it, and they're like, Andrew, you got tested positive for anadrol. It's like, well, what the fuck? I drank a C4 and there was anadrol in it. I put on 20 pounds of muscle mass and it was because I was drinking C4s. I can't be shocked. But if CrossFit's telling you to go have NSF certified supplements, and then you drink a freaking C4, you put on that 20 pounds of muscle, you don't know where it came from, you're still doing what you were allowed to do as far as I'm concerned. Basically, the only way to be safe is to eat a paleo diet at this point. You eat freaking meat and vegetables, that's it. Only eat meat and vegetables, that's the only way you're going to be able to positively make it to the CrossFit Games. Or you grow your own food in your backyard and you can only have that. But even then, what happens if you test positive? You gotta test the soil in the ground to make sure there's no ostarine in the fucking soil, and then you test your soil and like, it wasn't my fault. And then somewhere down the pipeline, there's going to be somebody who comes out of the woodwork saying, your soil was spiked. You're a fucking cheater because you spiked your soil. You were only growing your own food in your backyard because you knew that when you grew that food out of your backyard, that anything that you ate out of it would give you an edge out of everybody else. It's like, well, isn't that point of anything? It's like, I'm going to drink a proper amount of water every single day because I want the proper amount of water to hydrate myself so I get the performance benefits, or at the minimum, not the performance deficits from drinking the requisite amount of water. And then all of a sudden, you're in this whirlwind of people blah, 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 blah. The fact of the matter is, it's an NSF certified supplement. They tested it. It says there's ostarine in it. And in the comment right there, after the freaking post that she made, you can see that they're not doing anything about the 4-year ban, which sounds incredibly odd to me. I mean, they have in the past brought them down to a 2-year ban. So the question is, what the fuck is going on? The teammate, Stephen Wallace, I've met the dude. The dude's bones are like dinosaur bones. So yeah, while he's strong as fuck and people are going to look at him and go, oh yeah, the dude's clearly using stuff. He hit a freaking heaviest front squat and something, and he hit a freaking heaviest snatch somewhere else. He can clean almost 500 pounds, which is an exaggeration. I think it's like 400 pounds. So it's not outside of the realm of possibility. The dude's got dinosaur bones. Like, I got these little bitch ass wrists. His wrist is like grabbing my kneecap. He was born to be a strong guy. I'm making this essentially as soon as I had read it. CrossFit needs to use WADA. If they want to be taken seriously ever, everything you ever hear about CrossFit is that it's not ever going to be a professional sport. If you can't get the judging right, it's never going to be a professional sport if people can't see it and understand what's going on. But one thing, I don't really agree with a whole bunch of that. I agree with it, give or miss, depending on the situation. But usually I say, do whatever the hell you want. You are your own company. The events are their own events. Look at Rogue this weekend. They can do whatever they want. But when it comes to the drug testing, I do think that you need to either say, do whatever the hell you want, go free, look like the fucking strongman. Like, look at the strongman walking around. No one in the comments section saying, are these guys natural? Because everyone freaking knows that they're not. And then you've got people like me saying that people like your former champions are not natural. And I feel like I'm rather well informed on this stuff. I don't feel like I'm your average internet troll wandering around and saying, they're on steroids. I think Justin Medeiros is natural. I think that there's a handful of athletes that are natural, but I do think that there are athletes that are not. I could probably make another 15 to 20 videos about the games last year in relation to athletes that I do not think are natural. And CrossFit could probably nip that in the butt if they were to just bring in WADA. Because when you saw the UFC bring in WADA, what you saw is everybody's physiques got really fucking small because everyone was terrified of testing positive. Now, wouldn't it be interesting if they brought in WADA? They finally ponied up the money and made themselves try to look serious. And then all of a sudden, everyone's physique started to fizzle away. It'd be like, maybe that Andrew Hiller guy had a point. Maybe you would see a handful of your favorite athletes start retiring. You would also have people like Stephen Wallace and Taylor Stride here not having these issues because there's a professionalism to it. And like I said, I don't know what the fuck's going on.
I don't know shit about fuck.
I'm looking at a post and making a response video. That's all I got to say about that. Andrew Hiller out.